Hi, I'm Sarah, Ausha's US Podcast Ambassador and host of Ausha's Podcast Tips. Today, I'm going to tell you the 7 key steps to launch your podcast. Tips. Maybe you already have your subject, but for those of you still looking, make sure you find a topic that you're passionate about, that you're really interested in. Because once you launch your podcast, you're gonna spend a lot of time recording it, editing it, and perfecting it. So if you start to talk about cooking, but you don't know the difference between an orange and banana, you may wanna go back to the drawing board. Take the time to make a small list of what the first 10 to 15 episodes could be about. A little planning goes a long way because it's very important to release your podcast on a regular basis. Whether daily, weekly, or monthly, releasing your episodes regularly is a must and a key to your success. After you've chosen the subject of your podcast, now it's time to think about the organization. Who's going to host it? Is it a solo operation? Or will you team up with a co-host or co-host? Also think about the format. Do you want to do interviews, testimonials, audio fiction? Do you want long episodes, short episodes, or a happy medium? Take the time to respond to these questions before going on to step number 2, which is equip yourself with the right equipment. First, you're going to need the basics: a microphone, headphones, and a computer. Now, what comes next depends on your needs. If you plan on recording at home, like in your bedroom or living room, or most preferably your closet, I recommend a USB mic, like the Blue Yeti. If you're planning to be out and about when you capture your audio, you'll need an external recorder, like one from the brand Zoom. No matter what equipment you have, try to record in a furnished room to avoid having an echo. Bad audio is a podcast killer, and post-production can only go so far. Okay, I think you're ready for number 3, recording your first episode. So exciting. To make the most of your recording time, definitely write a script. Start off by preparing an outline. Think like you're writing an essay. Start off with an introduction. Introduce yourself to your listeners, introduce your guest if you're having an interview, and finally, introduce the subject of your podcast that day. Then you have the body of your podcast. This is the meat of your content, and you can structure it in multiple parts. Then, before the end of the episode, to have a little summary. And then, in the conclusion, finally, say thank you to your listeners and to your guests if you've had one. Are there any questions? Me. Can I go to the bathroom? I meant, are there any questions about a podcast? Now that you've written your script, you can finally sit down in front of your microphone and install the recording software. Did you think I was going to say record? It's coming later. We're almost there. In terms of recording software, there are many. One of the most known and used by podcasters is Audacity. It's free and easy to learn. If you're Team Apple, there's also GarageBand, also free. We love free. And I recommend you start with free. You'll have time to upgrade later. Okay, you're almost there. First, check your connections to make sure you don't have any unwanted surprises with like a microphone that's gonna... Check your equipment, look around, get yourself looking good. It's a podcast, you don't really need to get yourself looking good, but whatever makes you feel good, you're ready to start recording. But make sure you hit record because otherwise you're just talking to yourself alone in a room, like I am right now. Guys, hello? Is anyone there? You've just finished recording your first episode. Bravo! No, seriously, good work. And now you have a raw audio file. Depending on your style and skills, it's time to get editing. You're not required to cut anything out of your podcast, of course. You can simply just add in your credits. And if you have an interview format, this works really well. You know, like director's cut on raw. But don't be shy. Editing and sound design can really elevate the quality of your podcast by giving a nice pace to your episodes and highlighting the best parts. With your editing software, you can add background noise, modify your voice with different effects, or add sound effects. Having a podcast host is an essential step when launching your podcast. And at Ausha, it's even our job. For a podcast to be distributed on all listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, your audio file must be stored online with a host. The host is a bit like a bridge between the audio file and the rest of the world. The principle is simple. You download your audio files to your host, and then they're the ones who distribute it everywhere. See? You don't even have to do that part. With the Ausha platform, hosting your podcast is super simple. All you have to do is upload your audio files with titles, descriptions, and images, and then you're done. You can publish your episodes immediately or schedule them. The sky's the limit. The hosting and distribution are two complementary steps, and both depend on the hosting platform you've chosen. The first task of a podcast host is to store your audio file, and the second is to distribute it on all the listening platforms. And the more apps listed on the hosting platform, the better, because not everyone uses the same app to listen to their podcast. Here we go again. At Ausha, we have the easiest distribution process in the world. Seriously, your podcast can be distributed on all the listening platforms in just a few clicks. Basically, our objective is to simplify the lives of podcasters to help you boost and grow your podcast. Today, the challenge is to not only make a podcast, but also make it visible everywhere. I know it's already a huge undertaking creating a podcast, but having a good communication strategy is essential if you want to reach your audience. Before jumping into the communication of your podcast, figure out who is your target audience. For this, ask yourself some questions like, what do my listeners have in common? What are their interests? What does their typical day look like? What are their motivations and obstacles when it comes to listening to your podcast? To help you, the Ausha team has prepared a template for you, and it's in the description below. Lots of tools exist to help you communicate about your podcast, and social media is going to be your best friend. You can actually cross-promote on multiple platforms at once. This will save you valuable time, which will give you more time to concentrate on your content. And luckily, you can do this directly on Ausha's platform. Next, think about Google. To have a good SEO strategy is super important to improve your natural referencing. There are lots of different techniques, but the basics are to insert keywords into the titles of your episodes, in your descriptions, or directly in your show, for example. In your communication strategy, think about making a press release, or even a newsletter, or even think about cross-promoting with another podcast by inviting other podcasters onto your show and vice versa. While gaining more visibility in new communities, you might also make some friends. And there you have it. Those are the 7 steps to easily launch your podcast. I hope this video has helped you. Do not hesitate to like it or share it or both. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next videos. See you soon.